Welcome to the MS&Me Radio Network. The broadcast shows are for informational and entertainment purposes only. They are not designed to provide listeners with specific personal, medical, or counseling advice. Individuals with a medical issue should always consult their healthcare provider. MS&Me is not responsible for content of individual shows. The views expressed by show hosts or their guests are their own. Enjoy the show.
Welcome to Girl with MS on MS&Me Radio Network, a division of the Multiple Sclerosis Global Support Network. I'm Caroline Craven, aka the Girl with MS, where living with multiple sclerosis is more than just an illness. It's a way to empower our lives by making positive change. Over the course of our time together, we will be sharing many experiences with other MS patients across the country. As we know, MS is a snowflake disease and no two are alike. Every time we get the upper hand on this illness, we like to say, take that MS. We're especially grateful today to be talking with Demitrius Omphroy, soccer player, actor, singer, MS activist. I think I got all this right. And I'm going to call him Demit. So welcome, Demit.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Good. Did I get your last name right, too?
Omphroy is Omphroy. It's okay.
Omphroy.
It's very, very close.
Okay. Did better on the first one. But Demitrius or Demit, this is really exciting because I did a little research about you, and I know that you've been a big soccer player, and I do want to ask you some questions about that. But I also saw that you sang a song for Nancy Davis's Erase MS Gala back in 2012.
I did. Yeah. That was a really cool experience. Again, it's funny that you bring up like all these different things that I have done in the past, and so it's always a cool reminder of just the experiences that I've had, and just speaking out about multiple sclerosis and just kind of sharing my story. But yeah, we did that back a couple of years ago. But Nancy's great, and she does a lot of really, really big things in the multiple sclerosis world, and so it's been awesome to connect with her and to learn more about her story and her organization. So that was a really cool opportunity we had.
That's great. I first met Nancy back in 2001, right after I got sick, and then I was at the gala last year, and the gala is happening again in about a month. So in fact, I'll be speaking with Nancy Davis later today. So I thought I'll just bring that right out front. And are you still singing?
No, I mean, gosh, other than in the shower and at home, not really. I've kind of taken a different career path, but it was definitely a really cool opportunity. It's always been kind of the silliness and the outgoing part of me. I've always tried to do, like, whether it's dancing or fun things like singing, it's kind of something that is a part of me, and so I think it was really cool just to have that a couple years ago, but definitely just for fun now, you know.
Oh, that's great. Well, I'm going to have you tell everybody a little bit about your story, just, when you were diagnosed, and I know you said you're doing something new now. Maybe you could just give us a little outline of your path as to where you're at now and what are your new projects that you're doing.
Of course, yeah. So basically I was diagnosed back in 2010. I was a collegiate senior at the time. It was my fourth year at UC Berkeley, and I was playing on the soccer team there. So very competitive. My goal in life was still try to become a professional soccer player. And so I was pretty close. And if you kind of rewind 3 years prior to that, I was 18 years old when I had my first symptom with multiple sclerosis. At the time, I didn't know it was MS, but it was a really scary symptom that happened. I woke up one morning, and I had just like a blurriness in my right eye. And at the time, I was actually in Portugal. And so I was training with the team in Portugal, and I was really, really close to signing a professional contract there. And I woke up one morning just for practice, and it was like someone had fogged up my right eye. It was such a weird feeling, and I thought it was just like having sleepies or something, It was just such a strange feeling. Then when I went on the soccer field, I noticed that, like, oh my gosh, I actually can't see out of my right eye. It feels like I had glasses and like there was a like a translucent cover over it. So I stepped off the field and a couple days later, I ended up getting diagnosed by one of the doctors there saying that if it was hereditary, I was going to go blind. And so for me, not even being, I don't think I was 18 years old yet, just having that happen to me while being out there with a professional team and thinking I was going to be a pro soccer player, it was completely devastating. And it freaked my parents out. It freaked me out. And so I came back home and then sought out treatment and got back on a plan and just kind of got my life back together, healed over like the next 6, 7, 8 months. And then I was back playing again. And then that's when I took my scholarship to go to UC Berkeley and then continued playing there for the following 3 years until I had my actual diagnosis. And it was such a weird thing. I remember hurting my back in practice. It was like I went up for a header, and then I went down, and I remember my back feeling pretty sore that night. And so I had my roommate at the time. I had him just kind of step on my back. I don't know why I didn't just go to the trainer, but I just had him like, oh, will you just step on my back? I need you to kind of crack this one part. I hurt my back in practice. And I woke up the next morning, and it was so crazy. My left foot felt completely numb. Like on the bottom part of my left foot, it just went fully numb. And I was like, okay, great. I totally pinched a nerve. Shouldn't have had my friend step on my back, but like lesson learned. So I told my trainer at the time, and then we iced it and we did everything I could. And for the next couple weeks, I would tie up my shoe really, really tight, and to help feel like there was something there. But it was just my way of coping with this weird numbness. And then it just didn't go away. And I want to say about 2 months later, I decided to talk to a doctor about it because it was starting to scare me a little bit. Like, how can my nerve be pinched for this long? And so we got an MRI, and then when I came back, I was expecting them to just tell me that I had a pinched nerve, and then they went through my MRI results, and they said, yeah, based on your previous history of having this optic neuritis in your right eye, and this new numbness that you have multiple sclerosis. And to me, I freaked out again, and I immediately thought, the worst possible thing that could happen to me. I wasn't going to be able to walk anymore. I wasn't going to be able to play soccer, and I guess what I wanted to do and how I approached it was I wanted to try to take it head on. I wanted to do something and be proactive about it, just like I would do if I had a normal soccer injury. I wanted to figure out getting on a treatment, and within 2 to 3 weeks, I was on drug therapy. I was on Copaxone, and for me, it just kind of helped me mentally know that I was doing everything that I possibly could to get on something and work with my neurologist to figure out like a plan of attack for me. And then so I know that was a very long-winded response to your question, but I there's a little bit more. So after that, after I finished my last year with them, my senior year, I got invited to the MLS Combine. The Major League Soccer Combine is the top 60 players in all of the nation get invited only to come and participate over the course of 4 days in front of all the Major League Soccer coaches. And so for me, it was kind of like having that opportunity back that I had lost when I was 17 years old playing for that other professional team. And so I felt like there was a way for me to somehow attain that dream that I've always wanted to achieve, which is becoming a pro soccer player. And so I trained my butt off, and I went and participated and did my best and did really, really well over those 4 days. And yeah, I had my draft, and I didn't go the first round, which I was totally freaking out because I think there's about 20 picks per round. And so I didn't go in the first round, and there's just like a really, really long waiting period. So I was freaking out the whole time, but I ended up going first in the second round for Toronto FC. And it was just an awesome feeling to finally become a professional soccer player. And it was moving across the country, but it was still something that I'd always wanted to do, and I was able to do that, and it actually became the first Major League Soccer player with multiple sclerosis, I guess, on that day, which was a cool accomplishment, and also just for me personally, just to feel like I was able to go against what was given to me when I was 17, which was really, really devastating to not be able to achieve that dream, and having to kind of work back and get it back, but also being able to get an education was a really cool experience, and it definitely defined a lot of years, I guess, moving forward beyond that. So I'm excited. I was very excited, and I'm excited to kind of be doing what I am doing now, which is still having some sort of affiliation with Major League Soccer. So that was back in 2012. 12 is when I stopped playing soccer, and
Okay.
I took a break from soccer. I know, again, you could please feel free to stop me, but
No, this is great. I love
back,
it. I love it.
okay. So back at the beginning of 2012, I actually decided to step away from soccer for a little bit and kind of figure out myself personally. I think I was suppressing a lot of different feelings that I had in my head. I was almost just pushing it to the side as if, you know, it was okay to have MS and there was nothing else beyond it other than taking these injections that I was taking. And really, I almost just was just not dealing with it. And I think for me, taking a step away from soccer will help me to really understand my disease. I started doing more speaking engagements and meeting other MS patients and understanding more about the disease. And it helped me to really feel comfortable with the plan that would help me fight this disease beyond just my drug therapy and being a positive person, you know. And I feel like I really, really needed that moving forward in my life. And so that's kind of how I was introduced to Teva and their speaking program, and then also introduced to a lot of other community or MS communities, and that helped me, you know. So moving past that, I was able to actually get back playing again at the end of 2012 and going into 2013. I represented the Filipino national team because my mom has the dual citizenship. So I represented that, and that was just a really fulfilling experience to kind of end on my soccer career. Just feeling like you're playing for the passion of a country and the pride of like my grandparents and everything that they did for my family coming over here. And it was a way different experience that I ever had. You know, you're putting on this jersey and it's representing a country, you know, and so that was a really, really cool experience to end on. And then I decided to come back and finish up my degree and get I think I had something like eight units left that I had to finish at Cal. And so I was like, I just got to finish it, make my mom happy, and it's going to help out in the long run having that degree. And so it did. I was able to land a job with GoPro, the camera company, and I had just recently left this past year, but it was awesome. I stayed there for about 4.5 years and was able to lead some amazing projects. The one that I led right before I left was a project with Facebook and Real Madrid, and it was a huge, like one of their biggest projects that they've ever done with like a GoPro and Real Madrid type thing. And so that project was purchased by Facebook, and it was basically an 8-episode series about like the life of being a Real Madrid supporter, a staff member, and a player on the team. And it was just like a full in-depth coverage of working with the biggest soccer entity in the world. And it really helped me feel like I had soccer back in my life, because taking a step away from soccer felt, you know, there was a little bit of a gap, and I felt like, how could I would ask myself, like, how can I get soccer back into my life? Because I love the game so much, and maybe if I'm not playing it, like, there has to be ways that I can incorporate it back into my life. So I was able to end my last project with GoPro on that, and then that introduced me to my current role right now, which is the creative director with Adidas and Major League Soccer. So I'm back with Major League Soccer too, and my role here is actually to help grow the soccer culture in America through these key cities that we're working with in Los Angeles and New York. So we're starting small, but really it's more about how can we grow this soccer culture and make it, I don't want to say cool, but just make it, I guess for lack of a better term, cooler, you know, and make it just feel like it could be bred through the neighborhoods and through the streets and through kids all the way up to the first teams of these big cities. And, you know, the idea is more about like having soccer be more of like a normal thing versus kind of this stuff that you see on TV, and make it feel like how people feel when they see the best basketball players and the best football players, you know, like have it feel that direct connection to the fans. So that's my role now at Adidas and Major League Soccer. And so it's exciting. And for me, most importantly, like I get to have soccer back in my life, and I get to be able to speak to outlets like yours here and share my story with MS, but really just coming together and, you know, having this network of people that I'm able to lean on when I need them, and they're able to lean on me if they ever need anything. I think having like these resources for me is big, and the biggest thing with battling my disease. So
Yeah.
That's my
Wow.
long-winded response.
Yeah, hey, I like it. Easy to follow. What an exciting role at Adidas. And yeah, I have to agree. I mean, I have to say, there is definitely room from someone who had years of marketing before I got sick. Definitely room for someone to come in and take that spot. And there's a need for it. Because there's a great way to influence a lot of kids in a good way, to build that culture. And it just sounds like that's going to be a beautiful thing. And me, I live in LA, or a suburb, I know there's a lot of cities that could use that. That's great. Fascinating. And it was interesting too to hear your story because, okay, I had the exact same eye thing as my very first symptom way back in probably the late 90s for me, or whatever. Yeah, I can't remember, but it was like somebody had smeared Vaseline on my eye when I couldn't see out of my right eye. Like, it was just blurry, just how you described it. Like, I mean, it was. And I thought, and at the time, I was an avid whitewater kayaker, river guy, rock climber, mountain biker, and we did everything possible. I lived up in Oregon, and I'm a duck fan, so I know you're a bear, but I used to be Puddles the duck. I actually was Puddles the duck. So, but I thought maybe I hit my head one too many times, and then it went away. It went away the next day, and it never came back. But other things came. But it's just very interesting, and when it hit me really hard, I was traveling in Guatemala. I remember one of yours, you were in Portugal. Is that where you were?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, right. And I also related a lot to what you said about when you were taking Copaxone, about knowing that you are doing something, and just that alone is important. So important for people. Just knowing that they're taking some action to help. And then that was actually the one I was on for quite a while. But I'm curious to, that whole feeling. Do you do other things that you know are the right things for you? I mean, have you changed your diet, started meditating, and like any top tools that come to mind that you've done to change your life to know that you were doing something other than your medicine?
Yeah, and for me, a big thing was really not only getting on like a therapy that worked for me, but when I started to really work with my neurologist, I realized that, I think one of the things too I asked him was like, is there any sort of like specific diet that I should be on? And I think what he said was like, no, I mean, eat healthy and try to stay as healthy as you can and put the right things in your body. And so what that kind of meant to me was like, how can I tailor my own sort of like a roadmap to how I want to live my life. And so what I started doing was I created like a food journal, and I was trying different things, like how my body felt after I had, cheese or heavy meat or something like that, or alcohol, and then just kind of cut things out accordingly based on how I felt, and really just made like a fine-tuned design to how my body works when I have these different foods. And then I also created like a symptom journal, and the symptom journal basically helped, like if I had a symptom, like if I was feeling overly agitated on Friday, like I would do a rewind of 24 hours and then also kind of 24 hours after I recognized that. And then what that helped me, it helped me out twice. I noticed that when I had another similar episode when I was in Toronto, and I went back to my symptom journal, and I found that like stress was a huge thing. I was having this weird fumbling of words where it was like on the tip of my tongue and I couldn't talk, and I would say the most outlandish thing. I'd be like, oh my gosh, I really need to have these penguins and I'd be like, not penguins, I'm sorry, I meant like these potatoes, and it was like the weirdest thing, and I'm like, how am I saying penguins? And I'm talking about, it was just the strangest thing, but I pinpointed that particular symptom, like when I was having the fumbling of words, back to when I was really stressed. And so there were just little triggers like that helped me. And so that really, I guess, having this more like tailored guide to each individual, because like you said, it's like a snowflake. This disease is like a snowflake. There's no set way for how people need to be and take on their disease, but everything is different, And so what I created, aside from that, was this nonprofit, and the nonprofit was called We Heart Health. We love health. And the idea was exactly what your question is. It's like on top of the drug therapy that's already out there that is getting pushed to patients, like you should get on something. How could we have like a hub or an area, a space where people can come to get information about how to live healthier with multiple sclerosis? And that was really the idea of starting that. And since I've started that, which was back in like 2013, I think, it's kind of slowed down a little bit, but really it's definitely evolved. And right now I've been plant-based. So I haven't had, meat, dairy, eggs, any sort of animal related food in a while, unless you snuck it in my food. But I haven't had it since August 1st, and really there isn't any reason exactly why. I know that there's a lot of foods that are inflammatory, and I'm just trying like a completely just inflammatory-free diet right now, along with vitamins and certain things that I have on a daily basis, and just see how my body feels. And again, I know some people that really don't like doing that, and they can't. They feel like they don't work well with a diet like that. And so for me, I'm just more trying this out, and I feel like the goal is trying to eat as healthy as I possibly can, and taking the vitamins that I need, and also getting the most amount of sleep and staying as stress-free as possible. But a big thing, like you said too, was yoga, stretching, meditation, like anything that can de-stress me through our crazy days is super helpful. And usually when I can, I try to do as much yoga and like physically stretching the body out if I can, just to avoid the stiffness and stuff that happens from sitting around too long. So yeah, that's my kind of plan.
I love it. Now, your nonprofit is wehearthealth.org and .com?
Yeah.
Or just there's both of them.
The
right?
.org is the organization, and the .com is more. It's more of like, when I was building it out, it was more of like a blog, and I wanted the .org to be more focused on the foundation and the initiatives that we were doing. And so, I mean, again, it's more of I think right now we're still building it out. It's been a couple of years going, but I still feel like we have a couple people that we're thinking about being contributors to that. But mainly it's more about like an area for people to come to, and not necessarily. I guess they wouldn't need to be active on it or anything, but it's more just a place to come and understand, like, here are a couple of things that you could do in eating healthier. That was the idea of basically healthier living for multiple sclerosis patients, and I think I have high hopes for it. Once I get a little bit more time personally to work on it, I definitely will. But that's the idea behind it, and it's been received pretty well so far. So I know Nancy Davis a couple of years ago was working while I was getting my 501c3 status. She was really aiding in working together with us to accept donations and making sure that we were still able to function while it was getting started.
That's so wonderful. And we need stuff like that. We do. We all, and like you said, no two are alike. I'm not plant-based. I'm a cheese head. I just love cheese. So try to take it away from me and I will turn mean. Meat, I love it, but I've eaten enough of it in my life. I don't care. I can kind of give and take on it, most of it. But it's just all about clean eating. It's, anything from the garden or dried beans, and I don't cut out the legumes. I'll just eat anything that grows in the ground. So pretty much. But wow, this is really great. So we'll put up the link on the radio network for your blog and your nonprofit. That's great.
Awesome.
This is really exciting. I know we're running close on time, but I wanted to ask you one more question before I forgot it. And
sure.
You're obviously a very positive attitude, and that's been part of your success with this illness. Who do you attribute your positive influence to?
Gosh, that's a great question. I don't think I've ever been asked that. Why am I so positive?
Because I know we can't bottle it up.
I can't really say it's because of like one person in my family, or I've always tried to take the setbacks and the tough parts of life and just really try to turn them around and make something great of them, or just turn the situation in the other way and use it more as like a fuel for my fire, really. And I think personally, when I look at other people and they might be battling with things that are a little bit more debilitating or a little bit harder, for me, it kind of just makes me realize that, like, I'm not the only one fighting this battle. It might seem really, really crazy and hard in my life, but if I take a step back and look at some of the other people in life that are persevering and getting through things and having a way tougher time than me, just in general, like, I feel like for me it helps me to understand, like, I can get through this. And then and a big thing for me is just being open and talking about it. Like, one thing that I did do and that I still have a tendency to do, if you ask my girlfriend, I need to talk about things more. And then I think really when I was first diagnosed, I didn't really want to talk about it. I just figured, like, I was going to keep that positive mentality. And I think the biggest thing was understanding, like, we do all have a support system, whether I call you on the side or you call your friends or somebody who has some sort of MS connection or doesn't have an MS connection. I feel like utilizing the people around us to help us get through this really, really helped me understand that I can live and be happy. It doesn't really matter if I, knock on wood, hopefully it never happens, but like if I am not able to run one day, I think that there's still a way that I can have soccer in my life, and I think that it's just understanding that, like, it's all about mentality and it's all about these different things. And so I guess, to answer your question, I don't know if it's any one thing in life. It's really just kind of taking advantage of the things that I do have and not trying to get too hung up on this, because just like how I'm sure it happened with you and myself, like, sometimes these opportunities and these things that we think are guaranteed in life, they can be lost in the snap of a finger. And I think just being thankful and being happy about what we do have and trying to take advantage of that is the way I just decided to keep on trying to be positive and spread the positivity. So.
Oh, wow, that's great. I love the whole fuel for your fire, and that's really what you're producing with your We Heart Health. Between your healthy recipes and your ideas and then your positive attitude, you really are giving us fuel for fire. And I appreciate it, and I know my viewers are going to as well. I really appreciate your time to meet. I'm going to have to wrap up the show, but I hope next time you're in Los Angeles, if you come down here on your project, I'd love to meet up and chat, because I think there's a lot more we can share, and it would be really nice. I just want to thank everybody for joining us. Remember to always stop by girlwithms.com for tips and tricks to live better with MS. And remember to follow Omphroy and check out his We Heart Health and all of the projects he's helping out with MS. It really is fascinating. Thank you for joining me today on Girl with MS. And don't forget to listen to my show next week, same time, same place on MS&Me Radio. See you all later.